Hello, this is section 1.3, data collection and sampling techniques. So we're going to learning to identify the two of the four basic sampling technique in here. So as example, let's say suppose the employee in a polling form wishes to gauge the public attitude towards a specific public policy. Each member of the population could potentially have opinion about the policy. However, it would be impossible from a time and expense standpoints to poll each member of the population. So that's why we need to get a sample population. So sample of the population in cases like this where it would be impossible for the researcher to gather the data associated with the entire population, a subset of the population will be used as representative. The subset is called a sample. So subset, the smaller size of the population we call the sample. So in order to this sample to be an optimal use to researcher in making prediction is about the population. The sample must be good representative of the population. This is simple means that the measures associated with the sample would very likely close to approximate those other populations. So in order to get a nice samples, it has to be very close to the population. Eliminate bias. In order to achieve this close approximation, established sampling techniques are employed. These sampling techniques are designed to eliminate bias. So information obtained from the statistical sample is said to be the bias. The results from the sample are radically different from the results of the census of the population. So, for instance, of the pre-election poll suggests that the particular candidates for public office will receive approximately 62% of the vote, and then loses the election when he or her opposition receive more than 50% of the vote. Then the polling results obtain bias. Okay, so the sample was that say something, and then it turned out a different saying, which is there's something going on. So we're gonna learn on here as a four method of the sampling. So in order to eliminate the bias, statisticians use the four basic methods of the sampling that are designed to ensure that each member of the population has equal probability of being selected. For the sampling techniques are called random sampling, systematic sampling, stratified sampling, and cluster sampling. Random samples is a sample in which each member of the population has equal probability of being selected. So random sample example, suppose an executive of a company that employs 1,000 of the people all over the country would like to include her employees in shape the vision for the future of the company. This would require a considerable amount of the time and the effort for each employee who is included in the process. Therefore, it will be impossible to include the population in this process. She wishes for the opinion of the included employee to be representative of those who entire company. So she decided that there should be 30 employees on this committee, and that she coordinates with the Human Resources Office to create a database that assign a unique member of each of her employee. And then she uses a computer program to generate the list of the 30 unique random numbers, and then uses them to select the employees for the committee. So since the numbers were they generate randomly, so each employee had a equal probability of being selected for the committee. So that's we call the random samples. Systematic sampling. Systematic sample is a sample obtained by selecting each k members of the population, where the k is a counting number. So systematic sampling example, suppose the bottling company would like to test the machines that are filling the bottle by selecting a sample, fill the bottles, and measuring the amount of the product that the machine is putting in the bottles. The company statistician goes to the end of the bottle lines and selects every 20th bottle and then remove it for the testing. So that the system has thus generated the systematic sample. Stratified sampling. Stratified sampling is obtained by divide the population into the subgroups or the strata according to some characteristic relevant to the study. So then subjects are selected from each subgroup. And the example of the stratified sampling, Suppose that a marketing executive is testing a product and measuring the sales potential within age groups. Opinion are gathered from the people who fall into the following age groups. So making as 18 to 29, 30 to 41, 40 to 53, 54, 65, and then 60 and older. The data can be used to determine the sales potential within each group. The cluster sample. The cluster sample is obtained by dividing the population into the sections in cluster and then selecting one or more cluster and using all the members in the cluster as a member of the sample. So example of the cluster sample, suppose the governor of the state would like to find out what the citizens think about a certain budgetary item that will require extra taxation. So he also concerned with the opinion of those who live in the western parts of the states, and so he make it as a central parts and the eastern parts. The governor will randomly select a citizen from each part of the state to see if there are difference of the opinion between the regions. So summary of the sampling method. Random means subjects are selected by the random numbers. Systematic is the subject is selected by using case number after the first subject is randomly selected within the subgroups through the case. Sorry. And the stratifies subjects are selected by dividing the population into the subgroups, and then the subjects are randomly selected within the subgroups. Cluster subjects are selected by using an intact subgroup, and then that is represent the whole population. Since the samples are not perfect representative of the population from which they are selected, there are always some errors in the results. So sampling error. Sampling error is the difference between the obtained from the samples from the population. And then non-sampling error means non-sampling error occurs that the data obtained erroneously or the sample biases. So this is not actually the differences. They're already make that wrong, right? So identify the sampling method that was used. So number one, to check the accuracy, the machine filling the cups, every fifth cup is selected and then the number of the ounces of the coffee measured. So since there's a fifth cup, it's going to be the systematic. Number two, determine how long people exercises. A researcher interview of the 5 people from the yoga class, 5 people select from the weightlift class, and the 5 people select from the aerobic class, and the 5 people select from the swimming class. So they're making 4 subgroups. This is gonna be the stratified. And number 3, in a large school district, a researcher number all the full-time teachers, then the randomly selects of the 30 teacher from there, which means it's going to be the random. In a medical research study, researcher selects a hospital and then view all the patients, which is cluster, because all the patients. Number 5, for the 15 minutes, all customers entering selected the Walmart store on a specific day are asked how many miles from the store they live. So it's a cluster because all the customers they ask. 10 counties in Pennsylvania randomly selected to determine the average county real estate tax as that the residents pay, which is going to be the random. So it's not that bad as long as you need a keyword for each of the groups, okay? All right, thank you for listening.